Howdy, hello, and welcome to our podcast episode number 35. Springfield under attack and Homer's redemption journey. I'm Timothy, and I am here with my dear friend, Thomas. Today, we are going to talk about the Simpsons movie. Be aware, spoilers ahead. The Simpsons Movie is a 2007 American animated comedy film based on the Fox animated sitcom The Simpsons by Matt Groening. The story follows Homer Simpson, who pollutes Springfield's lake and causes the town to be sealed under a glass dome by the EPA. After escaping to Alaska, Homer realizes his mistake and returns to save Springfield from destruction. Well, Tom, so did you like The Simpsons movie?
Well, Tim, I have to say that while it was certainly entertaining enough for me as a fan of The Simpsons television series, I can't help but feel like they could have done more with this movie. It felt like they were just trying to cram as many jokes and references into the film as possible without really developing any meaningful storylines or characters.
I understand what you mean, Thomas, but I personally enjoyed it for what it was. A funny and entertaining adventure with some of our favorite Springfield residents. Sure, it could have been deeper or more meaningful, but sometimes we just need something lighthearted to watch. Besides, the animation was top-notch, and there were plenty of laughs throughout.
Well, I agree with you on the animation part, Tim. It looked fantastic for its time. However, as someone who appreciates a good storyline in any form of media, I found myself slightly disappointed by how thin the plot was here. It felt like they were just relying too much on gags and pop culture references to carry the movie, instead of crafting an engaging narrative with relatable characters that we can care about.
Well, I understand where you're coming from, Tom, but let's not forget that The Simpsons has always been known for its humor and pop culture references, rather than its deep character development or complex storylines. And in this case, those elements were still present. We got to see Homer go through a redemption arc of sorts, while also dealing with his usual clumsiness and selfishness, which made him relatable as ever.
Well, Timothy, I suppose you have a point there. I mean, it's hard to argue with the fact that Homer's character arc in this film was quite interesting and relatable. But then again, we're talking about Homer Simpson here. The man has been clumsy, selfish, and hilarious for decades now. It almost feels like they could have done more with some of the other characters, like Marge or Lisa, who often take a back seat in the show but are just as complex and deserving of development in their own right.
I see what you mean, Tom, but we also can't forget that this is the Simpsons movie, not some deep character study. It was always meant to be a funny and entertaining ride with our favorite Springfield residents, and I think they did just that by giving us plenty of laughs while still exploring Homer's growth as a character. Plus, we got to see how his actions affected the entire town, which added some depth to the story overall.
Well, said Timothy, it's true that this film was never intended to be anything more than an entertaining romp through Springfield with our favorite yellow family. And in that regard, it definitely delivered plenty of laughs and memorable moments. From Green Day's cameo at the beginning to Homer's hilarious attempts at redemption later on, there was never a dull moment throughout this film.
Exactly, Tom. The Simpsons movie managed to capture all of them. What makes The Simpsons such a beloved show? Its humor, its satire, and its heart. It may not have been the most groundbreaking or thought-provoking film ever made, but it certainly was an enjoyable ride for fans like us who've grown up with these characters over the years.
Surely, Tim. And let's not forget about that iconic scene where Homer rides a motorcycle around a globe of death to win the truck. That alone is worth watching this movie for. But seriously, I think what makes the Simpsons movie so special is its ability to appeal not only to longtime fans, but also introduce new audiences to these characters. and their world. It's a testament to the show's enduring legacy and the power of great storytelling through animation.
Couldn't agree more, Tom. The Simpsons movie is truly a delight from start to finish, filled with laughter,
heart, and enough pop culture references to keep you entertained for hours on end.
It may not be perfect, but it certainly delivers everything we love about this iconic family and their crazy adventures in Springfield. So, do you think anyone could have played these characters better than our beloved cast members?
Well, Timothy, I think it's safe to say that no one could have played these characters better than the talented cast members who brought them to life over the years. But what about some interesting trivia about the Simpsons movie? Did you know that this film was actually in production for 7 years before its release? Can you imagine how many storylines and gags they must have gone through during that time?
Wow, Tom, I had no idea it took so long to make this movie. That's just crazy. But it certainly paid off in the end with such a well-received film by both fans and critics alike. Speaking of which, did you know that the original ending was supposed to be much darker? They actually considered having Homer fail in his mission to save Springfield and have him return home to an empty town where he would eventually die alone from radiation poisoning. Can you imagine how different things could have turned out?
I can't even begin to fathom that version of the ending, Tim. Thankfully, they decided against it and went with something more uplifting and true to the spirit of The Simpsons. But enough about dark alternate endings. Let's talk about some of the amazing guest stars we got in this film. Did you know that Green Day did the opening credits song, The Love Bug themselves? And then there was Tom Hanks voicing himself as the narrator. Those are just two examples of many talented celebrities who lent their voices to this movie and made it even more special for fans like us.
I completely agree with you there, Thomas. The Simpsons movie truly is a masterpiece when it comes to celebrity cameos and guest stars. But perhaps one of the most memorable moments in the film was Homer's encounter with Bart's alter ego, Angry Dad. That scene where they both reveal their true identities simultaneously was just pure genius. It perfectly captured the dynamic between father and son while also providing some hilarious moments along the way.
I couldn't agree more, Tim. That scene was surely iconic, and it showcased how well written these characters are even after. All these years on television, and now in a feature film as well. But let's not forget about some of the other memorable moments, like when Homer first meets his long-lost father, who is revealed to be an old hippie living off the grid, or when Lisa discovers her hidden talent for opera singing during their time on the run from authorities. Those are just a few examples of why the Simpsons movie will always hold a special place in our hearts as fans of this incredible show and its unforgettable characters.
Well, Thomas, it's clear that we both have fond memories of the Simpsons movie. But what about the original film, and how does it compare to the new version? I remember being surprised by some of the differences myself. For instance, in the original movie, Homer's redemption arc was not as prominent. He seemed more focused on his own selfish needs, rather than trying to save Springfield from destruction. This made for a slightly darker tone overall.
That's interesting, Timothy. I remember feeling like the original film had more of an edge to it, especially with that darker ending you mentioned earlier. It almost seemed like they were trying to make a statement about the state of society or something along those lines. But in the new version, it seems like they've toned down some of the political and social commentary in favor of more lighthearted humor and character development.
Indeed, Thomas. The new version definitely leans more towards being a traditional Simpsons episode with lots of jokes and gags rather than trying to be overly profound or thought-provoking. And while some may argue that this takes away from its original impact, I personally think it's just as enjoyable to watch now as it was when I first saw it years ago. Plus, there are still plenty of nods towards current events and pop culture throughout the film, which adds an extra layer of entertainment for those who pay close attention.
You make some good points there, Timothy. It's clear that the new version has struck a nice balance between honoring the original film while also appealing to modern audiences with its updated humor and references. And let's not forget about the incredible animation and special effects which really bring Springfield to life in ways we've never seen before.
That's very true, Tom. The animation was indeed stunning in both versions of the film, but I have to admit that I prefer the new version's updated look for several reasons. Firstly, it allows for more detailed backgrounds and character designs, which make every scene feel more immersive and alive. Secondly, they were able to incorporate 3D elements into certain scenes without compromising the overall aesthetic or quality of the animation. This added an extra layer of excitement and spectacle that really elevated my viewing experience as a fan of both films.
Well, said Tim, it's clear that the Simpsons movie has stood the test of time, captivating audiences with its unique blend of humor, heart, and social commentary. And while some might argue about which version is better suited for them, personally, the original or the updated adaptation, it's undeniable that both films have left an indelible mark on pop culture history. Surely, Tim. And speaking of which, let's take a moment to discuss the incredible voice cast behind these iconic characters in the Simpsons movie. As you mentioned earlier, most of them are well-known actors who lend their voices to the show and film, respectively. For instance, Dan Castellaneta, who plays Homer, is also known for his role as Krusty the Clown on the Simpsons TV series. Similarly, Julie Kavner, Nancy Cartwright, Yeardley Smith, and Hank Azaria are all mainstays in the show's voice cast.
That's right, Tom. The fact that these actors have been voicing their characters for so long really adds to their chemistry and familiarity with each other. It almost feels like they're a real family at this point, which is probably why we find them so relatable and entertaining to watch on screen. And of course, there are also some great guest stars in the Simpsons movie, like Green Day as themselves or Tom Hanks voicing the narrator.
Indeed, Tim. Those celebrity cameos definitely add an extra layer of excitement to the film. But what about the characters themselves? How do you think they've evolved over time from when we first met them in the Simpsons TV series to their portrayal in the movie and then back again to the show? Do you think there have been any significant changes or shifts in their personalities that stood out to you as a fan?
That's an interesting question, Tom. I would say that overall, the characters haven't changed too drastically from when we first met them on TV. They still maintain their core traits and characteristics, which make them so lovable and relatable. But of course, there are some instances where they do evolve or grow throughout the film and show. For example, in the Simpsons movie, Homer goes through a bit of a redemption arc after realizing the consequences of his actions. Similarly, Lisa's journey from being an idealistic child to a more cynical teenager and back again is quite interesting to watch unfold.
I completely agree with you there, Tim. The evolution of these characters over time really adds depth to their stories and makes them feel more realistic. It also showcases how talented the writers and voice actors are at bringing these characters to life on screen. And speaking of writing, what did you think about the script for the Simpsons movie compared to some of the other episodes from the TV series? Did you notice any significant differences in tone or style between them?
That's another great point, Tom. I would say that the script for the Simpsons movie is a bit different from your average episode. It feels more like an extended special rather than just a regular episode. This is probably due to the fact that it had a bigger budget and was intended to be a cinematic experience. However, there are still plenty of references and nods towards classic Simpsons moments throughout. The film, which makes it feel very much in line with the show's overall tone and style.
I couldn't agree more, Tim. The Simpsons movie truly is an amazing addition to both the film and television canon. It manages to capture all of what makes this franchise so beloved while also adding something new and exciting for longtime fans like ourselves. And who knows, maybe one day we'll get another installment in this series that will continue to explore these characters' lives and adventures in Springfield.
Well, said Tom, I certainly hope so too. The Simpsons movie has left quite an impression on me as a fan of both the show and film. It really is a masterpiece of animation and storytelling that manages to be both hilarious and heartwarming at the same time. And with such an amazing cast and crew behind it, I have no doubt that future installments will be just as enjoyable and memorable for years to come.
Indeed, Tim. It's hard to deny the impact that the Simpsons movie has had on pop culture and entertainment as a whole. And while we could spend hours discussing its numerous accolades and achievements, let's take a moment to talk about some of the other films or TV shows that have been influenced by this incredible franchise. One such example is the 2018 Disney Pixar film Incredibles 2, which, as you may recall, features a scene where the main characters watch the Simpsons movie together in a theater. This nod to the Simpsons isn't just for comedic effect. It also highlights the lasting influence that the show has had on animation and storytelling. In fact, many of Pixar's films have been known to include hidden references or homages to The Simpsons, showing just how much they admire and appreciate this groundbreaking series. Another great example is the popular animated sitcom Family Guy, which, like The Simpsons movie, often employs non sequitur humor and pop culture references in its storytelling. In fact, some of The Simpsons writers have even gone on to work on Family Guy over the years, further cementing their influence on the genre. Additionally, both shows share a similar animation style which has come to define modern-day adult animated television programming.
That's fascinating, Thomas. It really goes to show just how much of an impact the Simpsons movie and its predecessor have had on not only animation, but also storytelling in general. And speaking of influences, I can't help but think about the countless memes and internet phenomena that have been inspired by this franchise over the years. From Do It For Her to Doe and everything in between, The Simpsons has left a lasting imprint on our collective consciousness.
Exactly, Tim. And let's not forget about the countless fan theories and analyses that have sprung up around this show over the years. From discussions about hidden messages in the animation to speculation about the potential endings for certain characters, fans of The Simpsons seem to never run out of things to talk about when it comes to this beloved franchise.
Well said, Tom. It truly is amazing just how much The Simpsons movie and its parent series have influenced not only pop culture, but also animation, storytelling, and even our own conversations online. And who knows? Maybe one day we'll get a sequel that continues to push the boundaries of what an animated film or TV show can be while still remaining true to its roots as a loving satire on American life.
I certainly hope so, Tim. In the meantime, I think it's safe to say that The Simpsons movie will always hold a special place in our hearts and minds as fans of this incredible franchise. And with any luck, future generations will be able to enjoy its humor, heart, and social commentary for years to come.
Indeed, Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure discussing this incredible film with you today. As we wrap up our conversation about the Simpsons movie, I just want to reiterate how impressed I am by its ability to balance humor, heart, and social commentary while still remaining true to the spirit of the original show. And let's not forget about those amazing visuals and special effects, which truly elevated this film above and beyond what we could have ever expected from an animated feature.
I completely agree, Tim. The Simpsons movie is a true masterpiece that will undoubtedly stand the test of time as one of the greatest films in both animation and comedy history. And with any luck, future generations will be able to discover or rediscover its many charms for years to come.
Exactly, Tom. And on that note, we want to thank all of our viewers out there for joining us today as we discuss the Simpsons movie in depth. We hope you enjoyed the episode and found it informative and entertaining. As always, please feel free to leave your thoughts, opinions, or questions about the film in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss out on any future episodes of Tim and Tom's Film Nights. Until next time, farewell everyone,